Our next guest, as we have every week, is Marc Z from Longfellow Staffing on the 3 Ps of personnel. I'm also going to be joined in this segment by Greg Stoller, our reporter from Boston College on international business. Welcome, gentlemen.
Well,
I feel like it's Face the Nation.
Jeff, good to see you. Greg, great to have you on the show. Great to be with you.
Thank you. Good to be back, etc.
Marc, you're sitting in front of us with a lot of statistics. What's going on?
Well, I thought I would talk about, especially what's interesting in the election year. We have a potential first female governor of Massachusetts, and Martha Coakley, versus a businessman in Charlie Baker, and
others.
And others. But what's interesting is the topic of women in the workforce has really come up a lot more, and women's progression and comments by Charlie Baker and Martha Coakley's positions on business, and it's really a microscope in terms of women and the women voters, because yesterday, for example, I was hearing a lot of analysts talking about it's not Charlie Baker's need to have the majority women's vote. It's how badly he'll lose in women's votes, because Martha Coakley is someone that a lot of women, including national lobbyists, are banking on. One of the big subjects that was in a recent article and is coming out on a lot of shows is parity with women and men's pay. And in Massachusetts, ironically, even though our unemployment rate is way down, there's still a big gap between women's pay and men's pay. For example, when we talk about Massachusetts, you have women in the workforce are almost 64%, but at the same time, they rank nationally in terms of earnings between men and women, only 21st in terms of where women have parity to men.
Do you think that's endemic to something about Massachusetts politics or Massachusetts policies, or is it just happens to be a statistic that can be juxtaposed with the national trend?
My feeling is that it has to do maybe with the type of jobs in Massachusetts. I think we have a lot of tech jobs. I think we have a lot of professional jobs. And there's still a balance that women have to have in terms of having families and balancing, which is going to be a continuum. But you're going to have more men. We're finding in my business more stay-at-home fathers as each generation it gets higher and higher.
There's a lot of stuff going on in the world, and Massachusetts is not separate from the world. We have an international economy today. You know that as well as anybody else. I'm talking to Greg. Greg travels all over the world. He's doing international business. We have a very integrated economy in this part of the world, and I think we need to look at the real issues, not at gender. We need to look at the real issues, what's going to happen with Massachusetts, and where are we going.
But that's what I find fascinating about politics is when people go into the ballot station, they're not getting interviewed as to why they voted the way they did. They have flipped that switch, or they've blackened in that oval because of any myriad of reasons. And we only find out about it post facto, as opposed to saying, so, are you voting with your heart? Are you voting with your mind?
Well, I think pay parity, I disagree with Jerry. I think pay parity does matter, and we're seeing it in business. We see clients are encouraging us for women in terms of professional services positions. I think, though, what's interesting is this generation, for example, female CPA professional services, female consultants, female attorneys, it's become gender neutral in professional services. I think the disconnect, though, is the balance. The more and more a company has balance, okay, so for example, companies like a TripAdvisor, they're flexible. You can work from home, like a Google. The more and more you're going to see more and more women involved in that because you have the flexibility. The less flexible the workplace is, you're going to have some pullback. But again, with better child care, with more incentives. For example, a lot of companies now or schools are giving young females incentive to become engineers now. So their ability to get into certain areas, and they're encouraging, all that is closing the gap.